I'm Brandon Hadley, and I welcome you here to Gnadenhutten, Ohio, in Tuscarawas County. And this is the site I chose for my public history sites. It was founded in October of 1772 by Christian Delaware or Lenape Indians that had been pressed west by white settlers on the East Coast and Moravian missionaries, David Zesberger and others. Moravians are pacifists. Traditionally, it's a small German sect that settled in the 1740s around the Lehigh Valley and what is now Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. They had a purpose of reaching native people groups, among those the Delaware. At the time of the Revolutionary War, the Delaware were split very decisively between, which side to choose. Some chose to stick with the English, with the Delaware here and Gnadenhutten were pacifists and tried to remain neutral throughout the conflict. The British and their native allies believed that the Delaware here in Gnadenhutten were passing intelligence on to the colonials, and for that reason they came here. In 1781, initially under friendly terms, but then when the Delaware refused to be removed, they came forcibly and moved them from here to Sandusky, closer to Lake Erie. At that time, David Zesberger and John Heckewelder, they were summoned by the British, who at this time still held Fort Detroit, and the colonials held Fort Pittsburgh. Gnadenhutten, although it doesn't look like it on the map at the time, was kind of a middle ground, and the Moravian Indians here were caught in the middle. They were summoned to Fort Detroit and charged with treason, but after examining the case, they were found to be completely exonerated of their charges, and they were returned to the Indians at Sandusky. Unfortunately, the Indians by this time had become very desperate and hungry from lack of food and provisions, and it was decided that a group would return in February 1782 here to Gnadenhutten to harvest their crops that they had left behind, and also to gather any other provisions, bring it back to Sandusky for the people. As they were here in 1782, a raiding party of Pennsylvania militia arrived. Now, the militiamen believed that the Delaware here were actually connected with a group of Delaware that had been raiding white settlements, and the raiding party consisted of about 160 men, commanded by Colonel David Williamson. Once again, they were from Pennsylvania, and they rounded up the Delaware here. They separated the men and then into one house, and then women and children into another. It was decided that they voted and decided to kill the Indians. Some of the militiamen that refused to be a part of it actually left the area. The Indians stayed up all night praying, singing, and preparing their hearts for their death. It was March 8th, 1782, when 28 men, 29 women, and 39 children were killed in a very brutal fashion. There were actually 2 young Indian boys that were able to survive. One of them actually survived being scalped. After they had killed the Indians, they looted the village, set it to flame, and it's said that it took upwards of 80 horses to carry away the plunder that they were able to loot from the village. I think this is an important spot in American colonial history and a revolutionary history, because when we traditionally think of the Revolution, we think of the English, and we think of the Americans fighting for freedom. we often forget those people, like the Moravian Indians here in Gnadenhutten, who are trapped in the middle, having to choose one side or the other. And ultimately, with these Indians, it didn't matter. I thank you, and I hope sometime you'll come by and visit this interesting site and learn more about the Gnadenhutten Massacre, March 8, 1782.